Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in. We have a very, very, very special guest this afternoon. Ryan Sublette, a right-handed pitcher in the Dodgers organization, joins Dodgers Daily. So thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we're going to start with kind of a connection you have. I know you grew up in the Chicago area, and Ryan Noda, he was an awesome point guard and obviously awesome in baseball as well. He went to Lemont High School there in the Chicago area. And then Kevin Malashevsky, better known as Mallow, he also grew up in Wakanda, Illinois. I know you didn't really, they were a little bit further away from you, so you didn't know them as well, but you did play with Bobby Miller on a travel team. Huh? Did he throw 100 miles an hour on a travel team?
Not quite 100, but he did throw hard. If I recall correctly, he still threw harder than everyone else. He's always been a flamethrower.
So, on a weekend, you're going to face, of course, you're a starter back then, Miller in one game, and then Sublette in the next game, really? I mean, that's what the opponents had to face?
Yeah, we had a pretty good team. We definitely didn't lose very, very often. So it was a lot of fun.
I wouldn't think so. And, hey, before we get into your career there at Tech, and I saw you throw so many times at Texas Tech there in Stillwater, and then I also was at the 2019 regional at Danlaw Field in Lubbock, Texas, when Oklahoma State, unfortunately, from my opinion, from my side, lost to Texas Tech. Fortunately for you, that was an awesome 3 days of baseball. But we'll get into that. We'll get into all of your career. But before we do, Europe, man, I've never been to Europe. Tell us all about it. I know you just got back.
Yeah, it was a great experience. Just took a 2-week trip out there, went to France, Belgium, England, and Switzerland. So it was a really nice getaway after the long baseball season. Yeah, just a lot of really good food, great experiences, great scenery. It was a lot of fun.
So what spurred that on? I mean, was that something you had planned for a long time, or is it how do you come up with a trip to Europe?
Yeah, so my brother and I, we're really close, and we've been talking for a long time about doing a trip. And he's a little bit more of an experienced traveler than I am, and he's been overseas before. And we started talking about it probably 6 months ago, and started putting together an itinerary. And we were seeing if other people would be able to join us and whatnot, but it ended up just being us two. And we still had a fantastic time. It was amazing.
Yeah, I've got a buddy who traveled Europe kind of like you did, and he has his coffee cup, and his coffee cup went all the way through Europe with him, and it travels with him every day, and he drinks out of it every day, and it just reminds him of that trip. So when I think of that, that's the first thing I go to. But hey, let's back up to your Texas Tech days, and we'll get into your days here in a minute at Lemont, where you won 2 state titles for them. But I've got to ask you, Tadlock there at Tech, and then obviously Gardner, he's an Oklahoma State boy, and he actually was a pitching coach at Oklahoma State under Frank Anderson for a couple of years, so I'm very familiar with Matt Gardner. Awesome pitching coach, but just the gusto, the vibe that you give off whenever Texas Tech plays, kind of a wild and crazy West Texas feel to it, so competitive. And whenever you play Texas Tech, it's like you're in a backyard brawl, and by the end of, when you go home on Sunday, you just feel like you're just exhausted because you guys play so hard. How does he get that out of you guys?
I mean, first of all, I would say that the entire coaching staff and J. Bob Thomas do a fantastic job with recruiting and just getting really good players that want to play for Texas Tech and don't want to be anywhere else. And one of Coach Tadlock's famous sayings is "iron sharpens iron." And so we take practice very seriously, always a very competitive nature, always trying to win, whether you're just in a scrimmage or just throwing a bullpen. It's always a competitive environment. And yeah, that one definitely still resonates, where iron sharpens iron.
2019, I was at Danlaw Field, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech fired off in the Super Regional best 2 out of 3. Texas Tech won on Friday. Oklahoma State won on Saturday. OSU got an early lead, had the lead going all the way into the 8th inning, and then lost it there in the 8th inning. Do you remember anything about that 2019 Super Regional?
That is still the most crazy series I've ever been a part of. Hopefully, make it to a World Series one day, but that one was wild. And if I remember correctly, that game 3 had 5 or 6 lead changes.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you ever talk to
Hit
Hewitt about
seven
it?
home runs. Oh yeah, yeah. We've talked about it a few times, but not so much in a like a talking trash standpoint, but more so the
Sure.
fact that it was just such a crazy series. Like just the that luckily Tech came out on the winning side, but yeah, just a wild series to watch.
It was awesome, and and the Tech fans there at Danlaw Field are just amazing baseball fans.
Oh
They're
yeah,
right on top of you, very intimidating, but in the right way, obviously. And they packed that place out. And I actually grew up with Jeff Haxton. Haxton grew up in Stillwater, Oklahoma, as well. The play-by-play baseball voice. I think he does basketball there too.
oh
Who
yeah,
coined the phrase "Adios, muchacho"? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
oh yeah, yeah. Jeff Haxton's the man. He's definitely really good with the play by plays and getting to know the players and know their backgrounds and whatnot. And he even gets to know the families of the players as well. He's a great guy, really good at what he does.
Okay, so let's back up even further. Let's take you back to Lemont High School. You won 2 state title games. You got to be on the mound. Of course, you were a starter in high school. And so I know that was a very special time for you. So I couldn't find the mascot of your school. All I could see was navy blue and gold. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us what your mascot was there at Lemont High School. Take us through the 2 state title games, Coach Storacco, and that whole experience.
Yeah, so if I was informed correctly, I believe maybe in 2020 our high school dropped the mascot.
Okay.
We were the Indians.
Okay.
And yeah, so I think it's just Lemont High School now with no mascot. But yeah, playing in high school at Lemont, it was awesome. It's a small town suburb of Chicago, and during my time there, for I'd say a few years before, and even still now, we just got some unbelievable athletes coming out of there. So I was very fortunate to have some really talented teammates and get the chance to play for 2 state titles, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Obviously, the appeal of Texas Tech has been in the College World Series something like 4 times in the last 7 or 8 years. So that was very appealing for you. You'd won 2 state titles, so you wanted to go somewhere where you could be a winner. I'm assured of that, just looking at your background. But other than that, Chicago area, Texas Tech, Lubbock, Texas, West Texas, that's a long ways away. So how did you choose Texas Tech?
Yeah, so kind of going off what you were just saying, I would say it honestly stems back to the travel baseball days where I was just on a really good team and we didn't lose very much. And then just so happened that my high school team was really good. We didn't lose very much. So I always just wanted to be on a really good team. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to be pretty well recruited throughout my time in high school. But it was kind of the situation where I always dreamed of going to play in a big stadium with a lot of fans down south, a chance to go to World Series.
Warm.
And it's just, yeah, warm. It just kind of seemed like a lot of the colder schools were the ones recruiting me. And thankfully by, I think it was 17U, I was about to start. No, I might have already started my senior year of high school. Yeah, J. Bob Thomas, he came out to a game and saw me pitch and took me on a visit, and that was that.
So at Texas Tech, you had like probably 5 or 6 guys that were bumping 95 to 100 anywhere in that area. Clayton Beater was on that team, and you just had several arms. So extremely competitive environment there, which I'm sure prepared you for the situation you're at with the Dodgers, being with the Loons last year. Same situation. I mean, just a bunch of great arms, bunch of great people, great environment. So I would assume all of that competitive nature, well, going back to Lemont, but with all the great pitchers you had to claw your way just into the lineup at Texas Tech with all the great pitchers they had. Same with the Dodgers. Did that prepare you for that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely gave me a little bit of a competitive advantage, a little head start into kind of seeing like, you're not a big fish in a small pond anymore, and you got to figure out how to, keep getting better and working your way up.
So you came into Tech as a starter. You got some starts as a freshman. You transitioned to where you're at now in the bullpen as a sophomore. Was that something that you wanted to do? Was it something you had to do? How has that gone for you? Obviously, it's worked very well for you, but how did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say at first, I mean, I still wanted to be a starter, but looking back, I would say I was definitely more of a thrower than a pitcher, and I wasn't throwing enough strikes to be a starter. So I fully understood the switch, even though I may not have liked it at first. But I mean, I feel like I've just bought into the role, and yeah, I feel like I've adopted the new role, and I not to say that I don't miss starting, but I'm happy with pitching out of the bullpen.
So you're sitting in the bullpen at TD Ameritrade there in Omaha, and on the walkie you hear your name. You get to run out to the mound and pitch there in the College World Series. Take us through that experience. That has to be incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. That's something you dream of ever since you start playing baseball and wanting to go to play at the next level. You want to play on the biggest stage there is. And yeah, it was definitely, I mean, it definitely was a little nerve-wracking, but we'd played in some pretty big venues before. But yeah, just a lot of adrenaline, a lot of fans. And yeah, it was surreal.
The cool experience, in 2022, you guys were, I believe, and I talked with Hobbs about this a while back, but you guys were like 7 games back or something like that to Dayton with 11 games to go. I think it was 7.5 games back, actually. You were dealing with a road environment, rain, everything else. So take us through that incredible run that you finished the first half with to win the Midwest League North Division.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just seemed like everyone was playing out of their minds. Everyone was locked in every pitch, really wanting to win, really wanting to outcompete the other team. And it was just a lot of fun when things were going our way. And just, yeah, when you play hard, you get rewarded. And that was just a crazy, crazy streak we had there to clinch the first half. And then, to have the champagne showers to celebrate, that was pretty fun too.
Yeah. And hopefully there's plenty more champagne showers to come in your future, and I'm sure you will be. Let's get to your stuff. I've got you at a changeup and a 4-seam that's anywhere from 93 to 95, and then what I call the Sublette slider, because it is absolutely that good. You can go to any of my social medias, watch the Sublette slider. And then another thing about you is I don't like you. You're definitely not a side armor because you don't get on the side of the ball, but you do kind of have a 3/4 slot, if you will, kind of a side slot, but you still stay on top of the ball, which allows you to throw that slider. So is that accurate? And talk about your stuff.
Yeah, so in the pitching world, we would call it a low 3/4 slot. And yeah, so something I never knew until joining with the Dodgers is that I do stay on top of the ball from being over there. So I used to throw a lot of 2-seams and try and sink it and make it move as much as I could. And then since joining the team or joining the Dodgers and figuring out metrics and whatnot, switched to the 4-seam fastball to get that straight backspin to where it carries through the zone. And then I think just off of that, both the slider and the changeup have been playing better with the better fastball.
Have you always had the really good slider?
No, the slider's honestly been the biggest work in progress throughout my pitching career.
Wow.
Where in high school, I threw a curveball, the spike curveball. And then I got to college, and the seams got a lot smaller.
Yeah.
I was having trouble gripping it, so then I tried moving to the slider, and it took me a good 2 years to figure out how to do it. Where I'd say that COVID season is when I started to figure it out, and since then it's still been a work in progress, just messing with different grips. But yeah, the like you were saying, the arm angle definitely helps with the deception of it and how it appears to move to the hitter.
That's amazing that you say that your slider is your biggest work in progress, because literally, coming, of course, watching video, I have not seen you throw live since your days at Texas Tech, but just watching you with the Loons last year, it just looks so natural coming out of your hands. So that's amazing that's actually your pitch that you consider to be in biggest development. But okay, let's finish this thing. I love to finish these conversations that I have with messages for kids. You've been to the top. You've dealt with all of the huge situations. You've had all of that pressure that you've had on you to perform in those situations. And so for kids that want to be like Ryan Sublette and have all the success that you've had, handle the big moments like you have, what is your message for them?
You know, there's one thing that I heard a few years ago and definitely still resonates as I've gotten into pro ball. And I remind myself of it every now and then, but it's that you should only compare yourself to your past self and not again like compare yourself to teammates or opponents. And if you love the game and you want to work hard and get better at it, and like that's your passion, to kind of see your progress, like measure yourself against your past self and see if you are getting better. And if you are, like, you're on the right track, just keep going, keep working hard. And if other people are doing really good or really bad, just kind of stay focused in what you are doing. And that's like, you still have to be a good teammate and hope everyone does well, but just not to compare yourself against others. I think that's a huge thing that I like to think about.
So, hey, Ryan, I certainly appreciate you joining. I was so excited to talk to you, and I'm so glad that you answered my message. Like I said, I got to see you at Tech, and I gained so much respect. Of course, Texas Tech and baseball is I don't know if we're a huge rival to you guys, but Texas Tech to Oklahoma State is an absolute huge rivalry in baseball, and we love it. Yeah, we love it when we have that series, and I enjoyed watching you and Beater and all those guys. And I did not enjoy Josh Young and his younger brother seemingly get like 7,000 hits against OSU, but had a whole bunch of respect for you, and then excited when you became a Dodger, and just thoroughly enjoyed watching you pitch last year. So thank you so much, Ryan Sublette, for joining Dodgers Daily.
Thank you for having me on.